Okay, thank you, Chris. So I'll tell you briefly about the Healthy Town Challenge, after which Michelle will introduce the town representatives and conduct the discussion. So as Chris just mentioned, it's an initiative of the Office of Preventive Health and the Heart Foundation to help rural communities create environments to support active living and healthier eating in their communities. And a significant emphasis of the challenge is placed on creating local partnerships and engaging with local stakeholders so that the activities that are implemented as part of the challenge can be sustained after its completion. And an integral part of the challenge for the towns was to recruit community members into the Get Healthy service, which is a free statewide telephone-based lifestyle coaching service. And so the challenge started in about August 2014. And to be eligible to apply for the challenge, the towns had to be outside of the Sydney metropolitan area and had to have a population of between 1,000 to 15,000. And for this round of the challenge, we received 12 applications, of which 5 were selected to participate. And each of those selected towns received a grant of $15,000 towards implementing their activities for the challenge. And as you can see on the map over there, the towns are fairly well distributed across the state. So a number of resources and support systems were developed for the challenge. The Heart Foundation developed a guide called Creating Heart Healthy Towns, which is being used by the towns to implement their activities for the challenge. And the towns also, workplaces in the participating towns have been given priority access to the recently launched Get Healthier program. And the New South Wales Office of Preventive Health is also providing support by particularly providing participation data for the Get Healthy service from those towns. And this data is actually helping towns to recruit and retain people into the service. And I suppose, as you will hear more about from the towns later on, the towns have been tapping quite extensively into the local facilities and resources that's available to them. And the challenge is still currently underway. It'll finish towards the middle of this year. But the towns have been quite actively engaging with their local stakeholders to develop and implement strategies based on people, place, and policy, particularly aimed at healthier eating and active living. And as I said before, you'll be hearing more about that in a brief moment. And the towns had to recruit community members into the Get Healthy service for the initial 6 weeks of the challenge. And the towns were collectively able to recruit more than 500 people in those 6 weeks. And of those people, we have around 75% still actively participating in the program at the 3-month time point, which is quite a remarkable retention rate for a community-based program. So this slide just shows you a snapshot of what the towns have been doing. And with this, I'd like to hand over to Michelle to conduct the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Santosh. This is a challenge within a challenge. So we're going 7 speakers in 20 minutes. So I've already warned them. I'm very strict on time and I'll be the timekeeper. So if it runs over, it's my fault. So first, to introduce our panellists. It is a challenge. So representing the town of Bomaderry on the Shoalhaven River, Kim Thompson is a health promotion officer with the Illawarra Shoalhaven Local Health District, and Kim also works on food security and developing physical activity programs in the area. So we're going in alphabetical order here of town names. So Kim's to your right. Representing the Snowy Mountains town of Cooma, Natania Copp is a health promotion officer in the Southern New South Wales Local Health District, I should be a compere, hey. As well as the Healthy Town Challenge, Natania is involved in healthy children's initiatives in both schools and childcare. In the middle, representing the twin towns of Tullamore and Tottenham, we have Councillor Barbara Newton, who's a councillor on the Parkshire Council, and she's also chair of the Tullamore Health Council. And further along, representing the central west town of Wellington, Rusan Hill is a physiotherapy assistant with the Wellington Health Service, but she's also actively involved in a variety of chronic care programs, and she's just recently stepped into the role of the Healthy Town Challenge project. And finally, but not least, representing the beachside town of Yamba, we have Kate Collins. She's an accredited practicing dietitian and the health promotion officer in the northern New South Wales local health district, and Kate actually works across the broader Clarence Valley region. So as I said, I've asked each panellist to be fairly concise with their answers to a couple of questions, but unlike all those other challenges you've ever seen or heard on TV, do not text anyone's name to 13 10 10 to vote them off the stage. All right, first question. So I'd like to start with Kim. Can each of you briefly outline what your town has been doing as part of the Healthy Town Challenge to become a healthier town?
Can you hear me? We've been developing quite a lot of initiatives, including physical activity like Zumba and Tai Chi, offering those sorts of programs, healthy eating and addressing social isolation, but we've done it in a community development model, and we've partnered with a group called the Pride of Bomaderry, who have been working very strongly over the last few years to improve the built environment. Another strategy is we have 4 lovely, brave women who have decided that they'll be the faces of Bomaderry, and you can see them up there. And this has enabled us to get a lot of media support because it's been really important to be able to promote and recruit people to those activities. We're aiming to offer something for everyone, so there'll be, whether it's healthy cooking or gentle exercise, something for everyone in the Bomaderry area.
Thanks, Kim. Very well done to the time as well, I might add. So, Natania, would you like to let us know a little bit about what's happening in Cooma?
Yeah, so the first half of the challenge, Cooma has been focusing on increasing health literacy levels by offering a range of nutrition and exercise sessions, and this has included teaching participants how to safely and effectively use the green gym equipment around town, hula hooping, how to build a veggie garden, and also the food sense program. Cooma also has a very active Facebook group where participants share their journey with others by uploading stories and photos, and also with the Facebook group we post up motivational messages, we provide healthy tips, and we encourage recipe sharing around themes such as Christmas and Easter, and we also provide information on how to access local services. And for the second half of the challenge, we will be focusing on policy development and infrastructure, specifically promoting the use of existing recreational facilities.
Fantastic, thank you. Next, we're going to hear a little bit about what's happening in the twin towns of Tullamore and Tottenham from Barbara.
Good afternoon. As you can see, we're very small. We only qualified for this if the 2 towns joined together. In Tullamore, we have a population in town of just under 300, and in Tottenham we have probably just over 300, but we have outlying people on farms that bring our numbers up. But saying that, we've been able to attract a lot of support. It comes through our local health district community nurses, some support through local government, and very much community run. We have people in the community who've gone out and trained for aquarobics, which goes down very well in Tullamore and Tottenham because often it's about 45 degrees. So we're doing that. The heat has been a big obstacle to us, but we're developing relationships with our shop who puts in healthy food options. We have visiting people like dietitians, diabetic educators. Diabetes is very high in these 2 towns. We are getting groups together for walking. We have senior exercise where people can sit in seats with the physiotherapist and do exercises in a chair to help them be a little bit more active. We're developing bicycling groups. We're developing outdoor exercises, walking groups when we get the walking track graded. And we have a young woman who is going to try and teach us Zumba. So we're trying very hard. You can see here, this is the bicycle group. Tottenham's having a meet and greet bicycle day next Sunday for the town. That's Tullamore 25-metre pool with some of our ladies who are very happy to be photographed doing their aquarobics, which has been extremely popular. We've got a cumulative weight at our first registrations. We have a cumulative loss, and we're putting that on a thermometer in the town so people can see how we're going, so we can keep them cheered up. And one of the other things is we have a cumulative centimetre off your waist measurement, and people are coming back every fortnight and being weighed, and so far the results have been very, very good.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank
It's a
you.
very comprehensive overview. Lots happening in a small town or two towns. Next, Rusan's going to tell us a bit about what's happening in Wellington.
In Wellington, we've had a very low participation generally in physical activities and things, and our first priority was to identify what was available, and that to make the community aware of what's available, and to put all the different groups that provide these services and activities to cooperate together as a collective. We did that, and then we identified other options or even seasonal ones like aqua fitness, and we tried to support them and advertise in the local newspaper direct through the health services and also the Wellington Aboriginal Health Corporation to promote these activities among the general population. We have generally had very good response, especially in the aqua fitness classes, again because it's very hot out our way as well, and we have a limited season there. So because of the festive season and the hot weather, we have focused very much on aqua. The other activities have continued to run, but as the season changes and the pool closes, we have decided that that would be the period of time where we would put more emphasis on the nutritional education of people, although that has started as they were exposed to the activities and we were on the ground. We certainly have used not just businesses like the local gyms, but we certainly have used community people that have already started almost like a volunteer type of activity that they generally run.
Thanks very much. And finally, on this question, I'd like to throw to Kate to tell us about what's been going on in Yamba.
So basically in Yamba, we've been, again, doing some of these strategies to do with nutrition and physical activity, but some of the ones that haven't been mentioned is we're looking at engaging the whole community. So the school kids, the preschoolers, the mums, the grandparents, the aunties, the uncles, and that type of thing. So we're about to launch a Get On Track challenge, which is a virtual race basically, and you move further along the track with the more desirable activities you do. So you log how much physical activity you've done, you log your fruit and vegetable consumption, and race against other teams, and that's going to link in with the local school's bike bus, which is similar to the walking buses and I guess the school buses that you have in more of the metro areas. We've got a walking bus that goes a couple of times a week. Some of our committee members have actually bought a Gate to Plate event back into Yamba, so highlighting all of our local food producers and the community gardens and that type of thing to the general public. And also our local library is looking at getting some pedometers on loan again to encourage that active transport, increase physical activity, and also getting some get healthy, so to speak, kits together so people can go out and borrow a volleyball kit and take it to the beach or take it to the park, and it's on loan for a week's time or whatever the library decides.
Fantastic. So lots of really exciting stuff happening there. I love your photos. The only thing I couldn't see was the Commando or Michelle Bridges. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe they weren't invited to these challenges. Now, one of the things we know that's a a really important thing for anything that we start is, how we would sustain activity over time, particularly when you saw there was a grant involved, but, beyond the initial funding period, how will these towns be able to maintain some of the new programs and some of the great work they've been doing? So the next question to each of you is, how will some of those changes that your towns made during the challenge be sustained over time? So I'll start again with Kim from Bomaderry. If you can just give us a short overview of what you've got in planning for that.
A challenge with Bomaderry is it's not always perceived as a safe environment. So sustainability, we have a lot of new partnerships with stakeholders, and we're building on current partnerships as well, existing partnerships, and we've had quite a few volunteers and community champions emerge through the challenge. And because we've worked together collaboratively with a couple of these projects, it's going to ease the way for those stakeholders to continue to work within the community. On a personal level with the participants themselves, a lot of the participants, once they've started to take part in, a physical activity, they're looking at their own barriers, they're overcoming their own barriers to physical activity, they're developing confidence to be out in the environment. And they've met up with other people who are going to be exercise buddies. So it's helping them overcome those barriers, and where they might have maybe started up with Zumba, we can redirect them then to go on to Aqua Zumba, because we've given them a taster of it, and then they can be redirected to the existing activities there. So we've found that a lot of the existing services and activities have experienced an increase in numbers, and will give people the option to be able to continue with what they've started off.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that. Natania, how are you going to try and keep the momentum going in Cooma?
Yeah, so changes will be sustained as we continue to establish new social norms, increase health literacy levels, encourage workplace health policies, and action local council strategies. Participants so far have already been provided with lifelong skills around nutrition and exercise, and they've also been exposed to the infrastructure and social networks that can be used to sustain a healthy lifestyle. And again, similar to Kim, a key achievement has been our partnerships with our 7 partners. And once the challenge has finished, the members will continue to meet to work on healthy built environment projects. And in the next few months, we will be working to action a number of items out of the local council's recreational facility strategy, and this will include a community consultation and audit on the use of the green gym equipment around town.
Thanks, Natania. Moving along, very briefly, if we could hear from Barbara how they might keep some momentum going in Tullamore and Tottenham.
The opportunity for sustainability is very difficult in the small towns, particularly because it's usually driven by the same group of people, so we don't want burnout in those people. The morale in each town has lifted tremendously since this challenge started. And people, I think, the barriers, as you said, Kim, the barriers have lifted. People are far less self-conscious about getting out and being active. And I think that's going to have a sustainable action for everybody. The grant has allowed us to buy equipment that will stay in the town, so that will help too, because we'll have things in our town. So I think there's a better morale, there's opportunity, the opportunity's higher, and I think people are a little bit more comfortable, a bit more self-driven, and people are, and the social aspect of this has really opened up in the town. People are talking a lot more. Everything is much brighter. So I think there's just a good buzz, and it might help.
Fantastic. I hope it turns out that way. That sounds really good. Rusan, what about Wellington?
I certainly can echo a lot of what she said there, that there has certainly been a continuous awareness and uptake of activities in town, and people certainly are talking more about it. What has been a very positive thing so far is that it has created a better cooperation among a variety of the small pool, actually, of services and organisations and businesses in town. And we've decided that we would like to tap into that for the long term by each each other's goodwill and collaborative goal of maintaining the awareness of people of health issues, promoting health messaging through the local media. The local radio, for example, and newspaper has started a little column with weekly health messages and things like that. The other thing that we want to consider is that we've already started to network and try and create a pool of volunteers that could help us with continuing a lot of these activities into the future, so that those people that are currently employed in health-related or community health positions that have been involved in driving this initiative phase, that they can be supported by these volunteers to continue with that once we stop or once we withdraw the main push. And then also, again, the resources that we've acquired through this, we will also use that to be on loan to those volunteers to continue the activities into the next season and beyond.
Thank you very much, Rusan. I'm glad that that's useful things into the future as well through the grant funding. And finally, from Kate, just a quick word about how things might be sustained in Yamba.
So we've used a fairly large portion of the grant to update a lot of the signage around Yamba. Yamba CBD itself, if you can call it a CBD, is quite close to the beach, but the number of people that would drive from the beach into town to get something to eat and then go back to the beach, or vice versa, is incredible. Parking, again, is a major issue in that area, but it's only because people are using the cars. So some basic signage to say, it's an 800-metre walk from the beach to the cafes. It's a 200-metre walk to the green gym equipment. There's some nice maps around town with the footpaths. So we've put a lot of our funding into that, and also at promoting things that are sustainable. We've got behind Edible Yamba, which is an edible streetscape in the main town where people can basically walk along and pick your herbs. There's tomatoes, there's passion fruits, papayas, that type of thing, rather than just the flowers or trees as such. And also got behind a little group that's wanted to start that park run in Yamba using some of our park space. The I guess negotiation was it's park, walk, run or jog, but got behind that, and that's starting in a few weeks' time, which is really great. In terms of members, it looks like there's going to be 100 plus people coming along to that.
That's so encouraging to hear how just a small amount of seed funding really and a good committee structure has allowed already forward planning on how this initiative might be a bit more than just a 12-month program for these towns. So on that note, a huge thank you to our 5 panellists. It's a long way to come for 2 minutes of fame, but we are hanging around and having a facilitated meeting after this to really get some of that deeper story around what's happening in those towns. But just finally, so you know what happens with the actual challenge part, there is a winning town. They will be announced in June, and it's actually based on that Get Healthy Service registration and the total weight loss by all of the Get Healthy Service participants, proportional to the size of the town. As Barbara mentioned, very small towns, Tottenham and Tullamore, and then some larger towns involved as well. So we can't disadvantage the small towns. So that's one of the things that will lead to the winning town. But there is also some good news. So the Office of Preventive Health has announced that there is sufficient funding to have another round of the Healthy Town Challenge. I'm sure we'll be very keen to stay involved in that. So keep an eye out if you are from a town that meets that criteria, or you know of towns that meet that criteria of size, and this would be a great opportunity for them to get involved in the next round. Certainly if you've got any questions about that, then Santosh from the office, his details are up there. But once again, thanks to our 5 panellists for coming, and thank you.